Canadian Bulldog from Wrestling Merchandise and Memories. That's merchandiseandmemories.com. And today we're going to review the 4th issue of Marvel's WCW comic book. To find out what happened in previous editions of the comic, check out the WCW Wednesdays section of our YouTube channel for reviews of the first 3 issues. Just before we get started, wanted to remind you that Wrestling Merchandise and Memories has more than 100 unique and conversation-starting top 50 lists on its site. Check it out at bit.ly/top 50 lists. When we last left off, Sting had temporarily given up his pursuit of the WCW Ghoul to pursue the Young Pistols and Cactus Jack aboard the WCW Bruise Cruise. The folks at Marvel had promised us that the next issue would be called War Games! But apparently, we're going to have to wait a month for that one while we delve through this Dangerous Alliances storyline. Our opening tag team match has future WWE Hall of Famers Stunning Steve Austin and the Diamond Stud preparing for yet another squash match, presumably on WCW Worldwide, against 2 scrubs named Jersey Jerry and Mangy Matt. One thing I need to point out is that this comic book, as a general rule, has way too much Johnny B. Bad in it. He's been a semi-finalist in the number 1 Contenders Battle Royal, he's been a commentator, and here again, he's a commentator with good old JR, Jim Ross. In just a few panels, Ross and Bad describe what's happened since the Bruise Cruise issue. The Steiner brothers have won the WCW tag team titles, the WCW World title has been vacated after Lex Luger left the company in real life, Sting has been named the number 1 contender, even though Ron Simmons was named number 1 contender in the first issue, and Austin and Studd have announced a new manager, Paul E. Dangerously. Now, it's worth pointing out that in the actual Dangerous Alliance in WCW, that Diamond Stud was never a member. Backstage in a pre-recorded interview, we learned that Arn Anderson and beautiful Bobby Eaton have joined the Dangerous Alliance, which means Diamond Stud seems to have taken the place of Larry Zbyszko. And that the fabulous Freebirds explain in the most boring interview of all time how they are also gunning for the Steiner brothers. We see yet another pointless squash match, this one between PN News and someone known as Zoltan the Magnificent, another Marvel creation. And we also get some advancing of the must-see Johnny B. Bad vs. Z-Man feud. And then it's time for our main event. Sting, complete with his Sgt. Pepper jacket and goofy grin on his face, is all set to win the vacant WCW World title, but who is the Stinger facing tonight? It's the Ghoul? Look, I get that the Ghoul is the major storyline in this comic series so far, and given that Luger has flown the coop to gain fame and fortune in the World Bodybuilding Federation, there's really no one else left on the heel side for the Stinger to face, but how did the Ghoul, whom no one has ever seen compete before, end up as top contender to WCW's main title? Well, perhaps the WCW Championship Committee knew what they were doing. The Ghoul is absolutely destroying Sting throughout the entire match. The Ghoul manages to pummel Stinger in the face several times. He leaps from the arena floor to inside the ring in a single bound. Yes, seriously. He rocks his opponent with a drop kick that somehow makes a thwopped sound, and injures Sting's surgically repaired knee. By God! Then the Ghoul begins doing a certain pose that wrestling fans from the late 1980s and early 1990s will remember well. Then Ron Simmons, whom, as I'd mentioned, was already number 1 contender before the Bruise Cruise fiasco, comes down to ringside to help his buddy Sting. Of course, if this really was a WCW storyline, Simmons would have probably turned on Sting. But instead, Simmons gets manhandled by the Ghoul, after which the mysterious green skeleton turns his attention back to the Stinger. The Ghoul attempts to nail Sting with a steel chair, but accidentally hits the referee, getting himself disqualified. Wait, what? You have a vacant WCW World Heavyweight title, and a match to fill the vacancy between the popular hero and some slimy green newcomer, and it ends up in a disqualification so that there can't be any champion. Sadly, that feels exactly like something WCW would have done back in the day. Ron Simmons comes back to ringside and demands that the Ghoul relinquish the championship belt that he apparently didn't win. After Bad calls Simmons an idiot for making such a request, Johnny B. Bad is actually proven right because Ghoul hits him with the hardware so powerfully that Simmons is knocked off the ring apron unconscious and presumably dead.
Damn!
With Sting, Ron Simmons, and the referee all knocked out, the Cowardly Ghoul poses with his championship belt, although we haven't had an official decision rendered yet. Suddenly, a bunch of Paul Heyman guys come to the ringside at the behest of Mr. E Dangerously and promptly toss Sting on his head and Simmons out of the ring. The 5 men celebrate in the ring and toast their manager, and then the Ghoul takes the microphone, asks for all the fat sweat hogs in the audience to keep the noise down while he shows the ladies what a real man is supposed to look like. It turns out that the Ghoul is none other than Ravishing Rick Rude. Big surprise there, Marvel. Big surprise. And stay tuned next issue for War Games. Yes, for real this time. Do you remember the 4th issue of Marvel's WCW comic book? If so, leave us a comment and be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestling Merchandise and Memories for much more great content.